Again, welcome everybody. We are very glad to have, as I said before, more than 25 to 30 countries joining us in this webinar. It's been really an effort that the IXL Center and the Global Innovation Management Institute think tank for COVID-19 have been doing for the past 2 months. They have been working side by side, identifying new solutions to support companies, governments, universities, institutions, and different stakeholders globally to overcome this crisis. So, of course, from the Global Innovation Management Institute side, they have been working on, as a board members of thought leaders on this field, they have been working on identifying those innovative solutions to support companies to overcome the crisis. And from the IXL Center side, we have been working on developing programs, methodologies, tools to actually support those companies to go through this journey and help them, of course, to overcome and to surpass this crisis. So we are very glad that you're all here. And this is the agenda that we will have for today. So as we already started, I was giving the opening. I'm Carolina Chitiva, Director of Business Development of IXL Center. Then I'm gonna pass it to Valeria Sanchez. Then we will go to the speech to Hitendra Patel. He's gonna be doing the speech for Innovating Your Business in the New Normal. Then we will have a session for Q&A, and then we will have the closing. So with that, I would like to go to Valeria Sanchez. Valeria Sanchez is our global business developer from the Global Innovation Management Institute, and she will be introducing some of the board members that are joining us here from different parts of the world from the Jimmy think tank COVID-19. So Valeria, thank you very much and welcome.
Thank you so much, Caro. So hi everyone and welcome on behalf of Jimmy. We are happy to have you here on this series of global webinars that we're executing. So on behalf of Jimmy, we have been at the forefront of the crisis, bringing together global leaders in a series of COVID-19 think tanks with the objective of identifying what are the key issues that this crisis is bringing upon companies and upon our economy, and also to identify potential solutions so we can help governments, companies, universities, and organizations to really get back to business and be able to win in this new normal. So we have some of those think tank representatives here in the webinar, and we would like to take just a couple of minutes to introduce them to you so you can identify who has been this thought leader from your region. And so with that, I would like to just go on with the slides. And for the think tank members, as you see your profile come up, please just open up your mic and say hi and introduce yourselves to the public. So we'll start with Vince.
Yeah, this is Vince Tobias. I'm based in the Philippines. I head innovation for the Ayala Group, one of Asia's oldest and largest conglomerates. I'm a board member of the GIM Institute and the ex-Monitor Group.
We have Cristanto Santosa. He is from Jakarta, Indonesia, and he is the Executive Director at Business Innovation Center. He is a certified training partner of GIM Institute, and he is also a board member.
Hi everyone, this is Cynthia from Claris Consulting. We are based in Malaysia and we help leaders to discover, develop, and articulate their value proposition globally through innovation, change management, and communication. Welcome to our webinar.
One of our members also is David Chung. He is founder and managing partner at InnoEdge Consulting in Hong Kong, and he is founder of the Hong Kong Innovation Management Institute, leading efforts in democratizing innovation in that region.
Hi guys, I'm Ben Sawolka out of Guatemala, founder of Happy, a company focused on systemic innovation, and bring to the table a lot of expertise in corporate innovation and national innovation systems. Welcome to the webinar.
Simon. I saw you were on, but I saw he was having a little bit of connection issues. But we've got Simon Sia also connected from Singapore. He is the CEO and founder of Athenaeum Consultants, and he is one of the board members at Jim Institute as well, representing Singapore.
Hello, everyone. This is Manuel Mendes, originally from Brazil, and I am a co-founder of Boston Innovation Gateway, based in Boston. Welcome.
Great. Thank you, Manuel, and thank you to all of the think tank and Jimmy Network for being here. Part of what we will see today is a result of this COVID think tanks that we have been holding in the past couple of weeks. So now I am pleased to present and introduce to you Dr. Hitendra Patel. He is the president at Jim Institute, and he is also managing director at IXL Center. He is a global innovation thought leader with more than 30 years of experience in the innovation field. He has experience working with Fortune 500 companies, with governments, SMEs around the world, helping them to achieve business results. And today we have him as our keynote speaker, and he will share some of his knowledge and his point of view on how to get back to business in this new normal. So with that, I leave you with Dr. Hitendra Patel.
Thank you, Valeria. Good morning, Asia. Good evening, South America. Good night here in Boston, where I'm actually in Boston. This is the third time we're doing this particular webinar, and we've been doing this to hit every time zone, whether it's North America, Europe, the Middle East, Africa, and now it's Asia. So first, just want to welcome our Asian participants on this webinar. We meet at a very interesting time, at a moment where we are all facing the same common problem. This little virus called corona, the coronavirus. And this little virus has basically shut everything down. There is no city, there is no country that is not affected by it and impacted by it. It started about 6 months ago in China, and we are not exactly sure when, but it started about 6 months ago, and it has basically spread across every country. And at this moment, different countries are at different stages of this particular crisis. And some are beginning to shut down, some have been shut down for a long time, and some are beginning to open up. And as a result of it, all of us are basically at a different stage of where this crisis is hitting us. In about February, the Global Innovation Management Institute said, this is serious, this issue of the coronavirus is going to affect everything. And we called the board members of Global Innovation Management Institute and says, we need to create a think tank that is going to find intelligence, insights of what's going on in China, what's going on in Hong Kong and Singapore, what's going on in Italy and in Germany, and what's going on in Sweden, what's going on in everywhere, so that we could learn quickly and share what are the next steps, what should we be doing in our local arena, as we can learn about what's going on globally. We did not anticipate the amount of change that was going to come as a result of this, but we quickly realized that this thing was going to affect us. This think tank meets regularly once a week, and during this once a week, we learn from each other what's going on. And the people on the call are from Singapore and Hong Kong and Malaysia, Indonesia, India. There are people from Jordan and Dubai and Saudi Arabia. They're from Algeria, they're in South Africa, they're in Belgium, they're in Italy, they're in England, in the UK, they're in Canada, they're in the US, they are in Mexico, they are in Guatemala, they're in Brazil, Colombia. And there's a really wide representation of what's going on, and everybody is giving us a perspective of what's going on. And what we want to share with you today is what did we learn from it, and what do we need to do? There is a feeling of despair in many parts of the world right now, and we got to change that despair into hope. And this presentation, the ideas in this presentation is how to get started and how to win against this very little virus which shut everybody down. We are going to beat it. And that's the conclusion of this presentation, is we're going to beat it. And I'm going to start with that with all of you. So just to share with you, the strategies that we saw across the world were the same. With the exception of Sweden, every country out there basically said that we have to flatten the curve. The strategy to fight coronavirus was flattening the curve. And flattening the curve essentially said that too many people were going to get sick too quickly, and the number of people sick will exceed the capacity of our hospitals and beds, and therefore will create a crisis. And we learned that very quickly in Italy, that when you didn't pay attention and your hospital beds were not available, innocent, normal sicknesses became fatal and people died. And we learned quickly and we applied this thing called flattening the curve. And what flattening the curve was basically saying is, let's slow down the spread. The spread is going to happen. Everybody is going to get sick, but we're going to spread it out so that the area under the curve is the same. And we'll push out time into this thing and stop it. And the approach for stopping the spread was social distancing. And social distancing basically said that if we stay far apart from each other, then we don't actually infect each other, and therefore the spread will be slower. And that social distancing was labeled as 6 feet apart. It was labeled as 2 meters in some parts of the world. And eventually it says shut down the schools, shut down the universities, go home, work from home. And the small units became family units everywhere. And that strategy worked. It essentially slowed down the spread of the diseases. And when we look around the world, the number of people who have died is far less than what could have happened. And so there's a celebration that we should appreciate that social distancing is an important thing for saving lives. And we did not destroy and burden our health systems in the process. However, the very process of social distancing resulted in this thing. Basically, we had to shut down many parts of our schools, universities. We had to shut down our restaurants and hotels. We had to shut down parts of our government. We had to shut down parts of our organizations and corporations. R&D stopped, marketing stopped. In small restaurants, they had to shut down because they weren't safe. And essentially, a sign was put up, we are closed due to coronavirus. And the very strategy that saved our healthcare system was now going to basically kill our economy. And this economic impact was beginning to be felt everywhere. Today, we've got already 30 million people unemployed in the United States as a result of this thing. And we don't know how many more will be there. And we're already seeing small businesses shutting down in the hundreds and thousands everywhere. What social distancing did was it sent us home. It told us that stay away from everybody else. And we began to fear and distrust each other. Every single day we were social distancing, we began to look at the other person, whoever the other person is, with suspicion. We saw them as if they could be carrying a virus and they could give it to us. We saw them as infecting us and maybe infecting our loved ones. We saw on television people in hospitals dying. We saw how sad it was that they couldn't even say goodbye to the family members because they were on one side of the hospital versus the visitors were on the other side. And people were dying alone. And this fear of dying alone, this fear that you might get sick, this fear that you might infect your relative, your grandfather, uncle in your own house, began to really anchor and soak into our psyche. As you observe people walking on the street, now we walk onto the other side. When you see somebody coughing, we look at them almost angrily. When we see them not putting something over their face, a mask, we say, why don't you wear a mask? And we have changed in how we treat each other. We don't trust each other, and that has changed. We wanted to work as teams. It took us years to build high-performing teams. Those teams began to break up. We are now working from home, and many people don't know how to work from home. We do not know how to use this video conferencing. We don't know how to build teams. We don't know how to get work done, and we are learning. Not that we cannot learn, but we were having difficulty with that. And essentially, the most important problem that arose was this opaque interface to the customer and your company. Customers could not interact with you. Suppliers couldn't interact with you. And as a result, this interface became more strict. What took us years to build? Trust. What took us years to build between each other, that when we meet each other, we might shake hands or we greet each other with a hug or a kiss. All that is now gone. We look at each other suspiciously. And it is this fear that is going to be with us for the next 1 year. It is this fear that we cannot fix very quickly and very easily. And it is around this fear that we have to work. And that is the new normal. How do we work in an environment where people are fundamentally scared in terms of how they're going to work with each other? The strategy of social distancing gave us more and more time to think about this. More and more we stayed at home. And meanwhile, our businesses, the red line is the cash in our companies. And the cash kept on leaving as we paid salaries, we paid rent, we paid mortgages. And initially we thought we'd survive the crisis. But the crisis was extended out further because of social distancing. And as we stayed out, we spent more and more money. And now many people are facing what we call bankruptcies. The US government stepped forward and said, we have got money to give to the small businesses so they don't shut down. It took them about a week and a half to 2 weeks at Congress to approve the money. It took them another 6 weeks to deploy the money and distribute it through banks to each small business. Before the money even got to many of the small businesses, they died. Most companies do not have enough working capital to survive very long. So right now, we have an option. We thought we could survive this, and those who have got lots of working capital, cash, they may survive this crisis. But those who don't have a lot of working capital, the outcome is not very pleasant. It's probably the end of your business. And this is not acceptable for us. We need to get back to business. We need to get our company up and running. We need to get cash in the company. We got to get going. But the problem is we can't get going in the new normal in the way we used to work before. We've got to come up with new solutions. We got to make people feel safe. And if anybody thinks this is temporary, this is about a 1-year issue, because it will take 1 year for vaccines to be created for everybody to be vaccinated. And only after everybody's vaccinated will I feel safe. Only after we can do real-time testing, and we are sure we can test everybody right now and say you're good or bad, are we going to feel safe with each other. Real-time testing is not going to happen for 7 billion people in the next year. And lastly, if we are confident that this disease is not that dangerous and doesn't kill you, then we need to increase the number of hospitals and hospital beds. We're not going to increase the capacity of hospital beds by 3x, too expensive. That's not going to happen. So this new normal, the new normal of can I walk around and be safe? Can I come to work and be safe? Is not going to happen very easily. I have people at IXL Center who do not want to come to the office to work, not because they are unhealthy, but because they worry about the colleagues might give them an infection. They're worried not about their own health, about getting sick, but they're worried that they could transmit the disease to the parent at home. And so they're not going to show up at the office to work. And customers are not going to work with you. They don't want you to come into the buildings either, unless you are somehow clean. So what do we have to do? We have to start looking at our companies, and we got to get back to business. That's not a choice, because if we don't go back to business, the outcome is sad. We're going to get broke. So we got to decrease the fear of everybody who works in our environment, our ecosystem. We got to decrease the fear of our customers, decrease the fear of our employees, and decrease the fear of our suppliers. And we got to increase the trust again so that we can get back to business. This is what we have to do. It's simple. And the question is, how do we do this? Well, the way to do this is now we have to look at all individual personas, our customers, and watch the journey in how they work with us. How do they enter into our environment? How do they first talk to our people? How do they get the service that they want? How do they pay for the service? And when do they leave our facilities? And when we go through the process, we're going to uncover what part of this was safe and what was unsafe. And whatever was unsafe, we're going to make it safe. Similarly, when our employees come into our buildings, we got to follow them and understand the whole journey of an employee through the day. And in that whole journey through the day, whether how they eat in the cafeteria, or how they work in the desk, or how they work next to each other on the factory floor, we got to find places, things which are unsafe and make them safe. And the same thing for your suppliers. So we got to basically reinvent our current business. For every process which is unsafe, we must make it unsafe. Very simply, simple in the statement, but not easy to do very quickly. But this is what we have to do. The good news for all of us is, while we were shut down, or we were kind of running at half capacity, there were other essential businesses running because they are essential businesses. And those essential businesses had to provide us food, like supermarkets, and they figured out how to stay open and still serve us and get the food that we wanted. And they created solutions which we can learn from and apply for us, whether it was the number of people in the supermarket, or whether how they stacked the supermarket, or how the payment was done in the supermarket. And we can learn from them. Pharmacies who gave us medicine had to stay open. And they figured out a way for us to work together. Police departments figured out how to work together and says, okay, we'll get 5 or 6 people working next to each other. If one gets sick, all 6 will get sick, of course, but not the whole police department. And with the isolation of social distance teams, hospitals put masks on and gloves, and they found a way to work. And so did airports. But the main point is, while we were shut down, people were learning how to work in the new normal. And we can learn from those solutions. At this very moment in China, they're already beginning to open up businesses, and we can learn how they're getting their restaurants open. We're watching how the hospitals are getting open. And we can learn from China. We can learn from Italy. We can learn from Spain. We can learn from the US. And we can borrow those best practices and best ideas and get going. Now, the solutions I am saying are not the solutions that we've seen on television and you yourself have been practicing. I'm not talking about solutions which are 6 feet apart, which are culturally insensitive. This is not how we're going to sit and eat. This is not human. And we've got to provide solutions where we sit and we talk to each other and we interact with each other. And they need to be safe. We cannot stand in lines like this, 2 meters apart, and the line goes around and outside the bank or around your building in the hot sun. It's impractical. This is not how we should be working. We will not leave the middle seat empty, because if we do that, it's uneconomical. 1/3 of your revenue is destroyed. This is not the way we can do this. The solutions, this type of solution were acceptable when the crisis started, because we were forgiving. But we've got to come up with solutions which are much better than that. Solutions that provide safety, which makes people feel safe, and they are not worried about each other, and they're practical, culturally sensitive, and economical. That's what you need to do. During our think tank meetings, we ask each think tank member to look in the local geography for solutions, which weren't the typical 2 meters apart solutions, but solutions which were innovative and different. And as we look at the solution, we created a database, and this database was organized in terms of solutions which delivered the value proposition of 2 meters apart, 6 feet apart, but were different. We saw solutions of touchless. Here, we basically says customers, if you could give them an environment that they touch nothing, they're going to feel safer. We found solutions where wherever there was some unsafe activities, the company basically says, you do it yourself. And they handed the responsibility over to somebody else. There were solutions of digital and online. And here, virtual solutions emerged, which allowed us to do things that we couldn't do before. Almost like this webinar that we're having right now, where we don't have to sit in front of each other while I talk, and then maybe if I sneeze and make everybody sick. We found solutions of being protected, covering ourselves, putting mechanical barriers. And we found solutions of robotics, where robots would do work for us. And also we found solutions of certified clean. And we looked at those solutions and we saw what was in common for them. And those solutions delivered the same value proposition of 2 meters apart. They delivered a safety factor that people felt that decreased the fear, increased the trust. And they were chosen in such a way that they even delivered a competitive advantage. And that was the big idea. So what I want to share with you now is, if you want to get your businesses going, you need solutions which are not the typical solutions that look like this. This will not be economical, it will not be practical, and your customers will leave you, and your employees will leave you. You need to find solutions which are much more innovative, much more creative. In terms of touchless, customers were saying, don't make me touch any surface, please, that others might have touched. And as a result, a whole slew of solutions are coming out, which were touchless keypads, so you didn't have to touch the keypad, touchless shopping, where you didn't have a cashier and you didn't have to change money with the cashier, touchless locks, where the locks were digital and you could open a door with your phone or something else, or even touchless delivery. But touchless is the theme. And around touchless, hundreds of solutions emerged. And those touchless solutions begin to deliver the value proposition of saying, I don't have to touch something. If I don't have to touch something, then I'm safe. The fear of getting sick is high. The behavior and the reaction is, if I touch something, I'll get sick. So people put their hands in their pockets, they cross their hands, And now we can interact again and get them productive, touchless. There were solutions around do-it-yourself. In do-it-yourself, they basically says, you don't do it. Don't get close to me. Just let me do it. If I do it, I'm safe. But if you do it for me, it might be unsafe. And this mindset emerges and solutions emerge around haircuts, around cooking, around restaurants, self-testing, and other things. Let me do it myself. Hairdressers were basically saying, I will just send you the dye for your hair and you put the dye in your own hair. And they charged the same fee as if you had gone to the hairdresser. At restaurants, they said, we won't cook the food for you, but we'll put the ingredients together for you and still charge you the same amount as what the meal would be. And you cook at home. And they began to outsource things to other people. And yet still the value proposition, the delicious taste of those combinations or the right color for your hair was worth it to pay the right fee, even if you did it yourself. Business models we can see emerge out of this thing, which are very different. Similarly, we got solutions which are digital and virtual. Being almost there and no commute and without the fear of somebody sneezing on you. All across the United States, universities shut down, high school shut down, primary school shut down, and within 3 days, they were open again online. Digital classrooms emerged, Google Classrooms emerged, Zoom became the norm. And within 3 days, what we were trying to do for the last 10 years, teachers and professors who were dinosaurs, who refused to modernize, who refused to use online technologies, who said the only way to learn is to learn by me writing on a whiteboard and you guys listening to me, talking to you while I can see your faces in real time, basically were forced to move online. And very quickly, the whole industry has transformed itself, where it is safe to teach the kids. My kids are safe, the teachers are safe, and they're learning. They may not be learning at the same level of quality, but they will figure it out. And they're beginning to figure out that it's not a bad way to learn. Being there also began to be the fact that, hey, I don't have to commute. And today I do not drive half an hour to 1 hour to go to work. I don't drive another half an hour to come back. I wake up, I have my coffee, I start my work. I save 2 hours immediately in my day, and a new normal begins to emerge. Digital solutions are emerging, whether it's Zoom, whether it's virtual tours, whether it's concerts, and they're trying to figure out how to do these things, and they are cracking the code because they're leaning forward and says, we will not just sit still and say, oh my God, I can't do an event anymore. Oh my God, I can't have anybody traveling. They're finding new solutions. Digital and virtual. Similarly, a whole slew of solutions began to emerge around protective barriers. Protective barriers are mechanical barriers that stop the virus from getting to you. Give me a barrier that stops the virus from getting to me. And if that barrier is good, I am okay with working again. And these barriers could look anything like the ones on the Postal Service. The US Postal Service never stopped. And they issued everybody a mask, everybody a glove. They gave them tools to give protection. Similarly, social distancing in companies like Pantaleon and others, basically they were given little devices to make sure the device would tell you you were 6 feet apart, 2 meters apart from anybody else. It would make a noise. Or restaurants are beginning to open up where the restaurants have a cover for 2 people, the 2 people they're social distancing with, who can sit in the restaurant, have a restaurant, they can see other people, and yet they do not get affected by other people in the process. And supermarkets put up barriers, mechanical barriers for cashiers to interact with people. Protective barriers, gloves, disinfectants, physical barriers, solutions were emerging. And then, of course, robots. Who doesn't like robots? Expensive perhaps for many, but certainly they're here. The time has come. And with the robots, they basically said, let the robot do the unsafe work while I supervise from far. I'm not going to be where the dirty thing is. I'm not going to go where the unhygienic stuff is. I'll send a robot. Robots will get sick. And those robots were used in our hospitals where the doctors were initially washing and cleaning up and going to the site where COVID-19 was. And many of them got sick. And then they put robots in place, and the robots could move up and down where the patients were with the iPad on top of it and the face of the doctor on the iPad. And the doctor was on the other side safe, not losing 1 hour to change his clothes to get ready to go to that site. cleaners, robot cleaners came along to clean the room, which was dirty or or unsafe with ultraviolet lights. Walmart began to put shelves stockers, robot shelf stockers. They came and loaded up the shelf to make sure the shelves were ready, that they didn't have to be touched by your employee. And solutions of drugs to put them together. And as we looked at this thing, the solutions begin to increase. And then the last set we saw was certified clean, where now we trust somebody who says all the people, all the things that I'm working with are certified clean. I am happy to work as long as you tell me those guys are certified clean. Certified clean basically meant that the bed sheets in my hotel room were certified clean. Why? Because they were disposable bed sheets, which meant nobody else had ever used them. Therefore, they were certified clean, and then they throw them away. In restaurants in China, they began to measure temperature of people. If the temperature was too high, sorry, you could not enter in the restaurant. Anybody who was on this side was certified clean in terms of fever. And the fever was a proxy for being safe. No fever. People began to talk about immunity cards. I already had the coronavirus, therefore I can't be sick. I can't be a carrier and I can't get sick. And therefore they could do that. And similarly, with self-testing and real-time testing emerging. Certified clean is one way to get opened up. As you look at this range of solutions, you can think of solutions that are emerging that you could apply to your own businesses. In hotels, for example, in the US, they're beginning to talk about lobbies where the customer comes in and they want to have something touchless. So as the customer walks into the hotel, a big television screen turns on behind the front desk and says, welcome to our hotel. There's a device for you to sign in. It's like an iPad. And there's a disinfectant wipe. Please wipe the screen so you don't get infected. And then you type in your name, enter the dates, swipe your credit card, and check yourself in and pick the key up to enter into your room. The customer feels it's touchless. The customer does it himself. The solution is somewhat digital. And there's some protection with the disinfectant. It's a combination of things that gives you the perfect answer. And while the customer is entering his information for the hotel, it also asks, would you like your bed sheets and towels to be cleaned every day? And if you say yes, it says that will cost you an extra $50 because your bed sheets are dirty. I don't know if you're clean. I don't know if you're safe. And I have to send my maid in there to clean that room up. $50. She'll wear gloves and she'll clean it up, but I'm going to charge you extra to do that. If you don't want to spend the $50, that's okay. You say, no, thank you. Then you do it yourself. Now you pull out the bed sheets yourself and the towels, and you put them in a receptacle, and you can pick them up at this area where the clean towels and the clean bed sheets are, and you make your own bed and you use your own towels. We are beginning to change the business model of hotels, where before that was expected service, now you pay for it. Now, many of us who use hotels don't like that, but the hotel owner, he's got an opportunity to change the way the businesses work. What McDonald's did with the trays, after you finish your food and you put the tray away, and they made you clean the restaurant before you left. Now the business model changes. Do it yourself. What IKEA did, saying we'll not assemble the furniture for you. You assemble it. And you're still thankful because you can buy the furniture and take it home in your car and put it together the same day, is what your value proposition is. It's okay for me to do it myself. Do it yourself creates a value proposition that we not imagine. Just like the shampoo or the coloring people's hair, the value proposition was a color, which is so important for women to have the right color. And that was more valuable than actually doing the shampoo, doing the hair coloring. Or the food, it was the taste that people wanted. And it was okay to go to a restaurant to taste the food where somebody else cooked it, but it was actually just as important to get the right ingredients, to get the right taste if I cooked it. Do it yourself. And this models allow you to change and rethink your business. And what I want to say to you is, please think of solutions which go beyond 6 feet apart and 2 meters apart. So I'm coming to the end of my presentation. What I wanted to share with you is the strategy of flattening the curve unfortunately caused havoc in our society. Our cash is bleeding in every company. Most of us are not running at 100% revenue. Many of us are shut down. If this thing continues for too long, then we're going to go broke. If you got lots of money, you might survive it. Let's say you do. What I want to say is this is not the curve you guys should be in. The reason you're on this call is because you believe in innovation, you believe in growth, you believe that we can change our destiny. And it is on us to choose what it's supposed to look like. And the curve that you want looks more like this. A curve that basically says it doesn't go down as much. The amount of money you're going to lose during this crisis is not as much. You're going to open much earlier in a safer way. And when you finish after the crisis, you're going to be better off because you chose the right processes that gives you a competitive advantage. That's what I want to pass on to you, that during this moment of despair and challenge, I don't want you to wait. Waiting is not going to help you. Waiting is probably going to fail you. I want you to start thinking about all your processes and making them safe. I want you to do them earlier, and I want you to do them better. I don't want you to be reckless, but I need you to start. And if you do this, then you will lose less money, you will start earlier, and you will end with a bigger competitive advantage as a result of that. So you may ask, how do I do this? And here's a simple recipe. Recipe is straightforward. Identify the unsafe processes of every human-to-human interactions. Begin with your customers and make them feel safe. Follow a customer's journey and in there map it and map what is safe. Don't worry about it. What is unsafe, put your energy to fixing it. Similarly with employees, make them feel safe when they come to your company. Make them feel safe working from home. Make them feel safe so they can start working. And the same thing with your suppliers. The solutions are not the ones which are insensitive, impractical, and not economical. The solutions have to be practical, economical, and safe. And there are many, many types of solutions which are out there. And there are hundreds of them that we've been collecting into a database organized across this particular themes. And now you can pick and choose which are the right ones for you. So look at touchless, look for do-it-yourself, look for digital, look for protected, look for robots, look for certified clean. Look for those type of solutions, combine them in some way to create a really valuable solution. Prioritize them so that they are the ones that decrease the fear, increase trust. Prioritize them so that they might give you a competitive advantage. Some of the processes you choose will allow you to access more customers. Some of the processes you choose might allow you to do things faster and cheaper. Some of the processes you do will allow you to change your business model and change the business model to create more value for yourself. Choose them wisely, and as a result, you get a competitive advantage. Whatever processes you fix, the problem is we live in a world today of fake news. Unfortunately, today news is made up of opinions. My opinion versus your opinion, and not based on science or data. It's all opinions. Our audience is scared. They have fear. And they are going to believe science and data. So you cannot just say, trust me, I've made it safer. Show them the data, the scientific data, and communicate it. Communicate it based on science. Science has got no sides. It is what it is. It's a facts. Use science to communicate that our processes are safe because of ABC reasons, and communicate it 10 times. The problem is when people have fear, they cannot listen very easily. There's noise inside their head. This is bad. I'm scared. I'm scared. I'm scared. And that noise inside the head covers up anything which is being sent by you as messages. So you got to repeat them, you got to communicate them, and you got to use science to communicate them, and then you got to repeat it. And if you follow these steps, I think you, all of you, can get started. Now, some of you may say, wait a second, but my industry doesn't have this, or I don't have the same issue as you do. And yes, that's true. Not all industries are being impacted by the same coronavirus issues. If your company has a lot of high touch, people touch each other and they're very close to each other, and you're an essential business, then you need to start implementing safe processes, because you are going to have to make things safe, and what you're giving the market really wants. Hospitals, universities, supermarkets, all of them is where you need to fix it. If your business is not an essential business, Let's say it's rock concerts. Let's say it's events, and not essential, not critical, but it has high touch. You may want to think about pivoting, or you may want to think about going to sleep for a while and become dormant, because it's going to be hard, because nobody's moving, we can't get on planes, and we're not going to be traveling for a while. If your business has got low touch and is highly essential, congratulations, you are the luckiest people at this moment. This is the time you make money. Phone companies, internet companies, online businesses, Zoom. Who heard of Zoom 3 months ago? And Zoom is now everybody's word. It's a good time to double down, reinvest, really take advantage. Online gaming, online education, online trading, all those things are great. Double down on those things. And then ultimately, if you're in the lower left-hand corner, then you do have opportunity, but you got to really communicate. This is where the real danger is. Some of you are in a space where you are high touch, but not so essential, and we're postponing. You're a nice to have and not a must have. Must have, you need to fix your processes. So, in summary, if you are a leader of a small business, you may not be able to influence other people. So influence your people and your company, fix your processes, make them safe. If you're a big company, you need to not only make your own process safe, but make the whole value chain safe. Communicate to your customers downstream, communicate upstream that you guys have to make it safe, because if any one of you is not safe, we're going to stop. In the US, our supermarkets were really happy. They were making lots of money during this crisis because people had to eat. What they didn't realize is upstream to them were meat packers, people who were cutting the animals and packing them in meat packing factories. And they were not clean. And as a result of it today, nearly half of our factories for meat packing has shut down because people got sick. And as they got sick and they got shut down, the price of meat goes up or the supply of meat goes away. You need to make sure your whole value chain is safe, or you will be impacted. Leader, act like a leader if you're a part of a big company, and work on your value chain. Industry associations, if you're a leader of industry association, then put together all the restaurants in one room and say, what are the best practices so we can all open together. Let's all share the best practices to get our doors open so people will see our city as safe for restaurants. Hotels, sit together, associations, and give them best practices to get started. And similarly for taxis, or similarly for any other groups of companies under associations. And if you're a mayor or a governor of your city or your state or your province, you only have one responsibility: push your associations to start getting your businesses up and running safely. This is not a time for us to sit and wait. For those of you who are doing on this call, especially in South America, it's night time. I am appreciative that you guys are on this call. The guys in Asia who are listening to this thing, you are the sort of people who are saying, what can we do to fix this? And this is not one of us doing it. It's all of us leaning forward to start moving the economy forward. We need to open our businesses. We need to open them safely. We can't be reckless, but we can do it. And there are solutions. And there's a systematic, disciplined approach on how to do it. Find the unsafe processes. Find better solutions to replace them. Choose wisely, and they'll give you a competitive advantage, and your business will flourish, versus at this moment, the risk is it may perish. I want to give you guys hope during this very difficult time, and I hope this presentation gives you some direction, some guidance what to do. Before I end this, I would like to run a quick poll, if you don't mind, and it's a little survey to ask you some questions and may bring clarity to your own thinking. I'm going to let Carolina ask you to do the poll, and then I would like to take 1 or 2 minutes to review the results of the poll. So if you're looking at your computer, there should be a questions coming up in terms of, does this organize you? Who will lead the change in your organization to make this thing happen? When will you start? And do you feel able to do this on your own? Why don't you take a few minutes to fill this survey out, and then we'll wrap this conversation up.
So, Hitendra, well, the people answer the poll. Would you mind if we take a couple of questions from the audience?
Of course.
Okay. So we have a couple of questions, and I'm just going to read this one complete because it's actually pretty interesting. So they are saying, I'm excited and at the same time terrified by what's being suggested here, because I see the potential implication of losing the simple day-to-day connections with our fellow human beings. Any thoughts on how we can actually keep those human being connections with those touchless, do-it-yourself, virtual, robot dominating future?
I think we must never forget that we are human beings, and what's programmed into our brains for the last thousands of years, millions of years, is not going to change because of one virus. We are still going to yearn for conversation. We're going to still yearn for touch. We're going to yearn for laughing with each other, doing things together, creating memories together, and all that. So I don't think it's going to go away. I think we're going to find solutions which are going to even be better than what we have right now. They'll be safer and they'll be cleaner. But we will certainly find a way to do more of the things. So I don't think the human condition changes. Solutions will get better. I want to be very clear. When we talk about innovation, people talk about human needs. Human needs have never changed for the last thousands of years. What has changed is the solutions that we deliver for the human needs. Human needs of safety, human needs of hunger and food, human needs for food, for beverage, water, and solutions have changed. We will find better solutions for better interactions and quality interactions. But first, we got to regain the trust using technology and solutions. And people are yearning for it. You see this in Italy as they sit in the balconies and they cheer each other and they sing together from the balconies to each other. You see that in terms of how happy people are right now to reach out to their relatives using Zoom. Relatives they had not reached out to in a long, long time because they were too busy. We like the idea that we have a new normal. And many of the new normal things are going to be pretty good. But it's for you guys and us, all of us together, to create solutions that will take us there. This is not a time to feel bad. I think we have an opportunity to create something better.
Thank you very much, Hitendra. We have another question from the audience, and it's regarding investments. So how would you suggest the CEOs of the companies that are present in this webinar to balance investments on new opportunities and on keeping the core business like alive?
Sure. So look, first and foremost, you got to get a new business, your core business up and running, especially if it's a big part of your business and there's many people working there, there are many customers. You have to fix that because that was working. Now, you may think this might be a time to pivot and try new things. If you've got the capacity to create new solutions, especially solutions of the type that I was talking about, whether it was touchless, do-it-yourself, any of the solutions. If you create any of the solutions right now, thousands of companies will want to buy it. We know people want masks. We know people want digital solutions like Zoom. We know people want solutions which are touchless. You create those solutions, you are going to create the next billion-dollar business. Every company in every country has the same problem. And for the first time, the size of the market is not just the country you're in, it's the whole world. So there is a huge opportunity in creating businesses around the 6 themes and startups around the 6 themes. Certainly, but for most big companies, the luxury of starting a new business versus getting your own business up and running or putting it in better shape is a tension. The balance is, I think you need to first focus on your core business, and you might put a small team working on any of these other new opportunities.
Thank you very much. Maybe we can just take one more questions and then we already have the poll results. So would you say that this is the best time for the US companies to consider offshore services options?
I think we have to be careful right now. We have become tribal. Our president here in the United States is certainly not encouraging global trade, and he's talking about tariffs, and he talks about America first. He stopped ventilators from being sent to Brazil, saying Americans first. and he became very protective instead of a global. It took us years to build global value chains. It took us years to build trust between each other. It required institutions which talked about free trade and fair trade and all that. And we are destroying these institutions right now. And this coronavirus has actually forced us to even look more inward than outward. So what I'm anticipating is every country is going to try and build its own value chain around critical, essential businesses. So this is a time for within each country that people are going to ask, do we have the whole value chain in case something like this happens again? And so there's opportunity for that. Our borders are going to become right now a little bit closed. We're not going to get on a plane for another year very easily. An American traveling anywhere in the world is probably dangerous because we have the most number of coronavirus people, sick people in the world. So we would be probably unwelcome in any other country. You may feel the same way about people from Italy or China or something. So we don't see people traveling very easily for a while. We don't expect that people are going to be able to build trust through video conferencing very easily. But if you can get through this thing, then I think there's opportunities for you. My biggest opportunity space that I see is the space around these 6 categories that we've identified. I really think we're going to see unicorns emerging, providing solutions around the 6 things, which are going to be fantastic. And those solutions, because they're so critical, they will find a way to get across any country and any boundaries. Outsourcing may be a little bit more difficult because we need to be close to each other to get the work done, and that's how we're going to work a little bit. On the other side, you might say we got digital, and right now we are talking to each other through digital communication, and we can outsource more through digital, especially digital solutions. I think some of that may continue, but I would pay attention to this protectionist mindset that we are in right now that could completely stop something just because of the legal loophole.
Thank you very much, Hitendra, and thank you for your time. So we have the results from the poll, so I'm just gonna pull them up. So 98% of the audience believed that it was helpful to help them actually to get organize them and to get started. So they definitely believe that the CEO needs to lead the change in the organization, around 70%. When they will start the change? Today, 61% said today. And what kind of help do you need? So they will probably use, some of them they don't need any help, and some of them they need support from advisors or programs or consultants. So I don't know if you wanna add any thoughts on this, Hitendra.
So first of all, I'm glad that the presentation was helpful and it helped you organize your thinking. So I'm really glad about that. In terms of the change, I want to really emphasize this change is going to come from the top. And I'm glad that 68% are saying it's from the CEO or from a director. I will be very careful about assigning this to managers, because if you do this, it's going to be pushed down as a non-critical activity. You, the CEO and the senior directors, have to own this, and you've got to make sure people are driving it forward and doing something about it. You need to make sure systematically people are following up on it. You got to make sure that you are checking the list to get it done. So please make sure you don't outsource it too far down in the organization. Keep it as high up as you can and put it on your agenda today. And make sure you ask, what have we done about this at every meeting, every staff meeting going forward. And this change, I'm glad you guys are thinking about starting it today. Start it as soon as you can. It looks like most of you are talking about we need to start now. This is going to happen. We are going to open the businesses in the US. They're beginning to talk about opening. Germany, they did. Just want to make sure you guys know the data. In Germany, when they opened the business and they said you can come, something like about 15 to 20% came out. People were scared. They were scared to come out because they got to the new normal. They were not sure whether it's going to just suddenly, and so people didn't flood the market and they were out there buying and shopping and hanging out. So the change will come, but it's going to come slower. So Let's start driving the change because people didn't feel it was safe yet. So let's communicate it's safe. So good. The survey results are almost the same as what we saw this morning in Europe. The Europeans were also saying the same thing. And we saw the same sort of results in North America, also and in South America. So this is a global results that we've been seeing across the board. And thank you, Carol. This is the results that we saw from the earlier presentations that we've done. And it's not so different from this particular audience that 99% says, okay, it's helpful, let's get started. Majority said CEOs and directors. A few didn't say managers. When to start? It's about the same again. This week, it's urgent. And what kind of help do you need? It's a range of help. Many people felt that they could do it themselves. I think you can. I think there's enough recipe in what I'm sharing over here, which says you guys can start, and and you need to start. And then some of you need to make sure you have discipline in starting and finishing. And in there, that's going to be the challenge because some of your employees have been sent home, and how do you work with them from a distance? But if you use the best thinking, I think you can get started.
Okay, thank you very much, Hitendra, and thank you for taking the time for sharing all of this knowledge and insights with all of us. We had more than 130 participants in the webinar, and again, more than 30 countries joining. So I think this information is going to be helpful for different regions, industries, companies, and different leaders in different positions. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for the board members from the Global Innovation Management Institute think tank COVID-19 that are joining us today in this webinar. You've been doing a great job helping us all to go through this crisis. So with that, I think we can close the webinar. So thanks again for your participation. We will be sending you the email with the recording session. So we hope to see you soon. Thank you very much.